So I get excited every 3 years for the second Sunday of Advent, specifically to hear the first reading. People say, "Father, what's so exciting about the first reading?" And I say, well, it's the prophet Baruch. And in order to really understand this reading, we have to understand what's going on at the time. Baruch was the secretary of the prophet Jeremiah. And basically what just happened was this. The kingdom of Judah was defeated. Jerusalem was taken and destroyed. Its people were then exiled. Only a small remnant was left. And Baruch has the audacity to tell the people who are in mourning over their defeat to put off their mourning and to put on the glory of God. If I were one of the people of Judah or Jerusalem, I might say, "Come on, Baruch, give us a break. Let us mourn a bit." But to have that kind of message in the midst of tragedy and sadness takes a certain kind of faith. It takes vision. This week, brothers and sisters, we mentioned that our candle for the second week of Advent is the candle of faith. And we see our watchword also over there in the shrine section, put up there, faith. So you can guess what the homily is going to be about today. Yes? Yes. Okay. Faith, we could say, can be divided up in 4 different ways. And often these 4 different ways, they work together sometimes. And sometimes they just increase one section at a time. Vision. That's one kind of faith. When the way we believe influences the way we look at reality. Because what we put our faith in, brothers and sisters, will influence our outlook on life. If we put our faith in the power of sin, the power of our own weakness or our own humanity, and the power of evil, then basically our vision of the world is going to be let's just trudge through life until God comes and takes us or saves us all. But if we put our faith in the power of God, the power of His saving word, and the way He makes promises, then we literally begin to do what both John the Baptist and Jesus, upon His initiation of His ministry, said to do, and that is to repent, to change one's mind, to change one's outlook, to say that God is the one who has the final answer. Vision begins to see things differently because God, in the Old Testament, mentions that because of the people's sins, He allowed locusts to devour some of their crops at a certain point in time. It's not that God sent the locusts, we know that. Sometimes God allows us to suffer natural consequences of things that, if we're under His protection, He would have helped us to avoid. So, after this, God then says, by the way, I'm going to pay you back double for what I allowed the locusts to eat up. Does God have to do that? Yes or no? No. It was the people's sin, and then they suffered a consequence. And then God says, I'm not just about restitution, I'm about restoration. And not just restoration to what once was, but restoration in abundance. This is very important, brothers and sisters, because this is basically the message that Baruch is being given to. According to their theological understanding, the people of Judah basically came to understand that their loss to the Babylonians and the taking of Jerusalem and the defeat of the kingdom of Judah was because they had stopped being faithful to God. But God wasn't content to just allow something to come to pass. He then gave them a message of hope, of restoration. Your children are going to be coming back. They're going to be more numerous. Again, he's not a God of restitution as so much as he is a God of restoration and blessing in abundance. So this, brothers and sisters, should also help us to have vision. Good Friday, I was out praying. We were doing the Good Friday savings, and I had some people who were praying during Mass, writing down what they thought were the places, the people, and the circumstances, what the people were wearing, of people that God wanted to bless and to heal. Now, the people who were praying had no idea who we were going to meet, but God did. And they handed the list to myself and a prayer partner and another group as well, and we went out. And I happened to pray with this one gentleman named Antonio, and he had a car accident, and there was still some lingering leg pain left over from that accident. He said it was about 3 out of 10. So we prayed for him, and the leg pain went away. He was sitting in his truck at the time, so I said, get out of the truck, test it out while you're standing, And he gets out, he's on his legs, and he realizes, oh, the leg pain is also gone as I'm standing on it. So then I said to him, look, you can use this as a reminder, because if God does something small for you, you can be sure that he cares about things that are of more importance, because a little bit of leg pain, think about it, in the grand scheme of things, how big is that to heal compared to something like cancer, right? Right? But if God does something small, we have the right to make the assumption, the leap of faith that says, if God cared about this little minutia thing, he's certainly going to care about even greater things. And the reverse is true. Because we hear in Scripture what God has promised to us. He gives us every single day if we are willing to receive it. Jesus Christ, God himself, in his body, blood, soul, and divinity. What greater gift is there than God himself? The answer should be nothing, right? Yes? Or yes? I'm not giving you a choice on that one. Okay. So, if there's no greater gift than God himself, and God has said through the Scriptures that the one, God the Father, who did not spare his only Son Jesus, but gave him up for us, and even gives him to us, will he not give us all things besides? So in that, we're allowed to expand our vision to say, yes, God wants to bless us. That's faith as vision. But sometimes it also means that we have to say yes. We have to assent to faith. Faith can also be basically our saying definitively, making a decision, yes or no. Somebody asked me the other day about faith, and I said, well, listen, faith is not like a light switch. It can increase and it can decrease, that kind of a thing. But guess what? Faith is also like a light switch. Are you confused yet? No? Okay. Faith is also like a light switch in this. Either you have some or you don't. Even if it's small, you either have some or you have none. Jesus said, if you have faith the size of a mustard seed, you will say to this mountain, be moved, and it will be moved. So there's that point where we have to come to decide, yes or no. Yes or no, do we believe? Are we going to make that decision? Are we going to flip that switch in this particular circumstance? An example of that was last Wednesday, I was taking my class. It's a class on healing, and for me it's a bit of a refresher. And the guy leading the Zoom call said he wanted somebody who had a discernible measure of pain. Well, I had a little bit of pain in my jaw, so I raised my hand. And then this brave woman who is a laywoman and had never prayed for healing before, volunteered to pray for me. And of course, I tried to assure her. I said, listen, don't get intimidated because I'm a priest, because I'm a normal human being like anybody else. It's not like you can't pray for a priest for their healing. You certainly can. So going through the 5-step prayer model that we were learning for healing, there was a point where she asked me a certain question, and the question was, do you believe that Jesus wants to heal you now? And I said, yes. And something odd happened. Because before she even prayed for me to be healed, before she even asked God, okay, God, how do you want to heal Father Chris? Suddenly I felt the power of the Holy Spirit coming over me, and my jaw pain went away. And I thought it was very interesting because of this. Just because I'm a priest doesn't mean that, that I have everything all together. I think years ago, I would have said yes with my mouth, but in my heart, I might have said, not really. Because sometimes we do that. We'll say yes with the mouth, yes in the mind, but in our heart we'll be like, no, I don't see God ever healing me or blessing me or anything like that, so I'm going to say no. So what happened was when she asked me that question, in a split second, I thought about the way God had been blessing me recently with some really major blessings. I don't have time to tell the whole story. I'll be here about 3 hours. You're like, okay, Father, that's like 10 minutes less than you normally preach. But anyway, in that moment, I realized if God had been doing that for me already, why not this too? And so that's what happened. With that yes, suddenly there was that faith, that assent, that yes, I'm going to say yes. So we have to ask ourselves some questions. Who is here at this Mass? Besides us, of course. Besides our guardian angels. Besides the other angels and the saints. Who comes to us at this Mass? Jesus, right? Yes? Okay. Is that the same Jesus that would heal the sick and raise the dead? So my question to you is, do you believe that Jesus can heal you at this Mass? Ooh, that wasn't that convincing, was it? It's a risk, isn't it? It's a risk. But we have to put our reason and our faith together. It's the same Jesus. It's not a different Jesus. It's actually a glorified Jesus, so he should actually be able to do more for us in the Eucharist. And if people get healed in Lourdes, France through the Eucharist, why not here? The difference in Lourdes, France is that they're expecting healing anyway, but they're expecting it in the water. Right? But they're open to healing. So the question is simply this. Will we say yes to God blessing us? To things that he can do? It takes some vision, yes? But we have to also assent to it. Furthermore, faith is perseverance. Paul, in the second reading today, mentioned that he is certain that the one who has begun the good work in us will bring it to completion. And this is a very good thing, brothers and sisters, because Jesus, it says in Scripture, is the author and perfecter of our faith. So if we realize that we don't have as much faith as we thought, we don't need to get down on ourselves. It's very simple. We just turn to Jesus. He's the author and perfecter of our faith, and we can say, Jesus, perfect my faith. Just as the man who brought his epileptic son to the apostles and Jesus to get healed, and the man says, well, if you can do anything, Jesus, please help. And Jesus gets a little perturbed and says, if you can, all things are possible for those who have faith. And the man says, I do believe, help my unbelief. So he even put his faith in Jesus, that Jesus could perfect his lack of faith in order for him to have the faith for the miracle. So the question that I ask you is this. Are you willing to let Jesus perfect your faith? There has to be an assent. That's a question. Yes or no? Okay. But you want to tell him that. Okay? All right. So, the fourth kind of faith, this is the last kind. Confidence. When I was going to college at George Mason University, we used to talk about a guy by the name of Jimmy who lived in the Archdiocese of Washington. That's D.C., or just D.C. for Brother Damien. So, Jimmy was special needs, but Jimmy had absolute confidence in God. So Jimmy was visiting another priest one day, or just a priest one day, and he says, you know what? I don't like Father so-and-so. I'm going to pray that Father so-and-so gets sent to Africa. And next month, Father so-and-so got sent to Africa. It was a great lesson of this. Well, number one, you don't mess with Jimmy. Number two, when you pray with confidence, God answers. We want to ask ourselves, though we have had disappointments in our lives, are we willing to trust the one who has never, ever let us down? And now, that's a tough one, because there might be times that we've prayed and we didn't get what we wanted. But I can say this as a witness. Again, it would take me 3 hours to describe why. God never lets us down. Sometimes he has the blessing come later, because sometimes when we ask for it, we might not be able to receive it at that moment. And he never gives us something that'll completely and totally debilitate us. But God is a God of not just restitution, but restoration. And yes, it took 70 years for Judah. We ask God to make it a little quicker for us, right? Yes? Yeah. And we can do that, because God did promise that there would be an increase of blessings. One of the promises of Advent that we remember that God is fulfilling now is this: that a son is given to us, a child is born for us, a son is given to us, the government shall be upon his shoulders, and of the increase of his governance there shall be no end. So our faith is that God and his kingdom is constantly increasing. And by the way, putting two and two together, we've seen recently, because of the sins of the church, and certainly sins of clergy, sins of bishops, how people have sometimes been scandalized and walked away from the faith. I don't need to go into detail. If you've been alive in the last 20 years, you know what I'm talking about. But if God repaid what the locust ate 2 times over, if God brought back the captives of Zion and blessed Judah and Jerusalem with greater abundance after the exile, can we believe that God is going to bring even more people back into the church than have left? More than 2 times over, more than 7 times over. Can we await that? Can we say yes to it? So we ask God, who is the author and perfecter of our faith, to increase our vision, our perseverance, our faithfulness to God, our trust in God. And now I've forgotten the last one. Oh, and our assent, our yes to God. Amen.